We will go ahead and begin today's web event. Again, welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is William Moore with OJJDP's NTTAC, and you are joining the OJJDP FY 2021 Juvenile Justice System Reform Initiative. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items to keep in mind. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be published on OJJDP's Multimedia page. You can view past web events on OJJDP's Multimedia page. If you'd like to get any transcripts or supporting materials, you can contact the OJJDP TTA Help Desk at the email address located on this slide. Again, I shared a PDF of today's presentation earlier. If you're having trouble accessing that event material, please note that we have put in a Google Drive link in the chat. On that Google Drive link, you'll be able to click on that and get access to the PDF of today's web event. If you're having issues with clicking on that link, simply copy and paste it into a browser of your choice. I would suggest Chrome, and it will bring up the document for you to download. For optimal audio, we are asking for folks to have the WebEx system dial your phone. You will see or note that you've been connected through either a phone icon or a headset icon. If you decide to connect through your computer audio, it will appear next to your name in the participants panel there. Again, if you're experiencing any issues or technical difficulties, please send me, William Moore, the host, a message, and I'll be more than happy to assist you. Now, during today's grant solicitation webinar, we will have opportunity for folks to ask questions. To submit your question, we ask that you go to the chat, you click or type your question that you have, but before you hit enter or you hit send, please make sure that in the to field you have either everyone or all panelists selected, okay? So again, you would type your question that you have related to today's content and make sure that you have everyone or all panelists selected before you hit send. Now, for this next part, if you're viewing by yourself, there's no need to type anything at this time. However, if you're viewing in a group, meaning there's more than one individual with you at this time, please go to the chat window and type in the total number of additional people in the room with you today. So if it's yourself and your program manager joining you today, you will just type in +1. So please type in the total number of additional people, not including yourself, in the room with you today. Please be sure to send to everyone or all panelists so that we can receive it. That being said, I would like to turn today's presentation over to our presenter, James Smith, for today's solicitation webinar. James, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away. And James, you may be on mute, by the way, in WebEx there.
Thank you, William. And good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us for a brief webinar on the Juvenile Justice System Reform Initiative. It's a new program this year, so we're super excited to share information with you about it. I am going to go through these slides. Some information I will read, some I won't. I won't insult your intelligence by stuff that's obvious to read, but I will hit the main highlights and definitely leave room for questions. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and move through my PowerPoint. And just so you know, that's me. And some of you may recognize me from other DOJ components, BJA, OBW, and COPS. I've worked at quite a few of the different grant making components. So it's nice to connect with you on this level as well. And I would advise maybe taking a screenshot of this page. So if any of the information you need is handy for the response center, you have quick access to it in your phone. So anything that we do at JJ, our programs, certainly they have certain guidance that come from Congress, but we also try to make sure that we incorporate this vision and that we're in line with this vision whenever we design new programs and whenever we revamp existing programs. So I won't read this for you, but just so you can see it here and know this is like a guiding principle for us at JJ. As well as OJJDP's mission, we try to make sure that our mission is in line with OJP's mission, which is ultimately in line with DOJ's mission, and all of that helps shape and guide the programs that we put out for you all to apply to, including the one that we're going to discuss today. The main objectives for today's webinar are really quite simple: to give a general overview of OJJDP's FY 2021 Juvenile Justice System Reform Initiative solicitation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the goals and objectives and cover, most importantly, application requirements. And I just want to be very clear up front. Last year, we had a program, its first time out, and it was called Juvenile Justice System Enhancements. That was the first year we did that for FY20. We're not doing that again this year, and JJSRI, which is what we're discussing today, is not to be confused with that. They are two totally different programs, and I just want to be very clear about that in case some of you may have applied last year or remember that program. I just want to be clear up front that they are very separate, even though up front they sound the same. So the solicitation web link is here. This is where you can go and get the direct copy of the solicitation that we have published. And you can go there, you can print it, you can save it, download it, however you choose to have it handy. I will stress to you important deadlines. This year with our new Just Grant systems, things are a little different in how we're doing things. There's kind of this whole two-step process now. And so with that being said, you need to make sure that you pay attention to both of the deadlines listed here. I would strongly advise, if you use Outlook or if you use Google Calendar, that you put an alert on your calendar for the due date, and also do it like a week in advance, a day or two in advance, so that you don't forget these important deadlines. The very first deadline is the Grants.gov deadline, and that's where you're going to be submitting your standard SF424 and your SSLL information via there. You have to do that in order to be able to apply for the rest of the solicitation within Just Grants. You won't receive anything to apply for this if you don't do the first part in Grants.gov. So it's very important that you do that by that deadline. If you are having any issues, we encourage you not to wait until July 6th or even a couple of days before. Honestly, if you have the time between today and tomorrow, if you even think that you're remotely going to reply to this, I would encourage you to just go ahead and do that piece so that you have it out of the way. And with the Grants.gov deadline, like I said, you're going to be submitting your SF424. A lot of folks always panic and wonder, well, what if I don't know exactly what I'm going to ask for? Well, we have a cap, so that should help you in one regard. But even if you're not asking for that exact amount, the SF424 is always an estimate. We're going to reach out to you if it's at a point where we decide we're going to award you or we need to make sense of your budget numbers. So it can literally be an estimate if you're not 100% sure. So don't let that stop you at all. So again, first deadline, July 6th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Grants.gov deadline is not to be confused with the application deadline in Just Grants or the solicitation deadline in Just Grants. That is July 19th at 11:59 p.m. That's when JJSRI for FY21 will close. You will not be able to submit anything else or do anything else after 11:59 p.m. So just make sure that, again, you have these deadlines, and I'm reiterating them because it often is a problem with solicitations, and especially with the two-step process being new. I just want to make sure that you understand what you need. So I'm going to talk next a little bit about the program description and overview. The Juvenile Justice System Reform Initiative will support states to implement to implement sustainable, research-based, and data-informed recidivism reduction policies, practices, and programming, and the strategic reinvestment of cost savings into effective prevention and intervention programs. Eligibility requirements. So this is very important. So there's two categories in which we're making awards for FY 2021 JJSRI. And they are Category 1 and Category 2. And I'll talk more specifically about what those categories are later on, but for now, I just at least wanted to let you know that there are two categories. And for Category 1, which is going to have the most amount of money, it's state government. So you have to make sure that you fit that category. And again, for the purposes of the solicitation, state means any state of the United States, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. So just want to be clear that this is what we mean. You fall into those categories, you're certainly eligible to apply. For category eligible entities are as follows: public and state-controlled institutions of higher education, nonprofits having a 501c3 status with the IRS, other than institutions of higher education, private institutions of higher education, and for-profit organizations other than small businesses. So very important as you are deciding whether or not you can apply, just make sure that you know, pay attention to this part. I saw someone ask me a little bit more about for-profit organizations. I will get to that a little bit later on. So I definitely will get to your question. I just saw that pop up. So just so you know how the funding amounts work here. So again, there's Category 1, there's Category 2. We anticipate making about 7 awards for $1 million each, which will have a start date of October 1 of 2021. For Category 2, we anticipate making at least 1 award for $1 million, again with a start date of 10/1, and both of these will have a duration, performance, or grant life cycle of 36 months. Of course, if you're awarded and your project gets stalled or delayed, you can always discuss extending that time frame if needed, but not anything we need to worry about now, but just wanting to let you know that if you make it through the process and you do get awarded, and for some reason 36 months isn't enough, there's ways to get you more time. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to spend a little time talking a little bit about the categories and the goals and the objectives for each of the categories, just so you can have a broader understanding of what it is. So Category 1 is basically focused on the grants that will be doing the work. Category 2, which I'll get into in a minute, is basically funding a technical assistance provider to assist those who are awarded in Category 1 to fully implement their program and get it off the ground, and any other kind of technical assistance things that may be needed in terms of grants management and making sure that the project is successful. Of course, in addition to me being your program manager and any other additional resources that OJP and JJ may have. So for Category 1, the goal of Category 1 is to support states to develop and implement sustainable research-based and data-informed recidivism reduction policies, practices, and programming, and strategic reinvestment of cost savings into effective prevention and intervention programs. The objectives include engaging stakeholders, analyzing data and identifying drivers, developing innovative or research-based responses, implementing responses, and measuring outcomes. And measuring outcomes is very important to us. So, I mean, not that they all aren't, but I know that's a very big one. And the deliverables will include the implementation of policies, practices, and/or programs that support the juvenile justice system reform, recidivism, and crime reduction. And as well as you'll have a final report summarizing the changes made, and the preliminary outcomes must be submitted at the conclusion of the grant period. But like I said, if you get awarded, you make it through the application process and you get awarded, there will be more details to follow on all of that. But this is trying to give you like a high level of what could be expected if you are awarded. Category 2, as I said, focuses on training and technical assistance. The goal of this category is to support a training and technical assistance or TTA provider to assist up to 7 selected states under Category 1. And also with this provider will be responsible for states that have recently or within the past 2 years enacted policy changes intended to reform the state's juvenile justice system and are seeking TTA that focuses on implementing juvenile justice reform. Additionally, states that are not OJJDP awardees will have to demonstrate that they meet the aforementioned requirement to receive this training and technical assistance. So that's kind of like our balance and safeguard. We want to be helpful in the field, but we also want to make sure that we're doing it in a structured way. So we're going to, again, we're going to ask anyone who isn't currently a JJ grantee or awardee to be able to demonstrate why they need this technical assistance. And if they can do that, we certainly are there to help. Objectives include developing and implementing and documenting TTA based on best practices for one, engaging stakeholders and analyzing data and identifying drivers, best practices for developing innovative or research-based responses, implementing responses, and measuring outcomes. Deliverables can include providing TTA to states related to stakeholder engagement, data analysis, policy development, planning and implementation guide, which we call a P&I guide, and supporting sustainability. These are the main things that we would expect the TA provider to hit on. But as you can imagine, sometimes one-offs pop up. And so, you know, we can deal with those things as they happen, but kind of just wanted to give you a general overview of the kind of things that the TA provider that's awarded under Category 2 would be expected to do. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about a general overview of the grant application process. For those of you who've been around for a while and have applied to DOJ grants, whether it's under OJP and one of its offices like BJA, OVC, SMART, or JJ, or if you've applied to OVW, you may have been very familiar with GMS. Well, we no longer have that. We said goodbye to that system last fall, and we have a new system called Just Grants, in which we're doing the majority of our application process and grants management kind of functions. So just want to let you know we're going to spend a little time talking about that. So I would strongly encourage you, although you'll get a copy of this PowerPoint, it's always helpful if you want to jot down notes. So just things to think about as you're preparing your application. So remember I said that one of the key things that you wanted to do is remember the 2 deadlines, the Grants.gov deadline and the application deadline. Well, before you even do that, before you're even able to do the Grants.gov piece, you need to make sure that if you don't already have one, you acquire a DUNS number, a DUNS and Bradstreet number, and also acquire a new or renew your registration with SAMS. If you don't have either one of those or your SAMS number is expired, then you know you're going to need to take care of all of that before you can move forward with doing the first piece in Grants.gov. So that's kind of that housekeeping stuff that, like I said, even if you're not 100% sure, there's nothing wrong with making sure that the kind of foundational kind of work is already done so that you don't run into any problems when it's time to apply. To register with Grants.gov, you need to acquire an AOR or Grants.gov username and password. Acquire AOR confirmation from eBiz POC. So what will happen is once you start set up for all this stuff, you'll start getting emails. You'll be expected to respond to certain things and confirm certain things. I don't work directly for Grants.gov, but I've been told that's how it works. So you just need to make sure that if you don't already have this set up and you're doing it for the first time, it's very important that you pay attention to your emails, check your spam box, just to make sure that you aren't missing anything that you need to confirm from Grants.gov. That's a very important piece. once you're in Grants.gov, to find this funding or any funding opportunity, you're going to search the funding opportunity in Grants.gov, select the correct competition ID number, access funding opportunity and application package. And here's something that's optional, but if it were me, I would strongly recommend doing this. Sign up for the Grants.gov email notifications. So that way, anything that you may be interested in terms of funding opportunities that could help support your agency or projects that you're working on, you're getting notified about. And they'll also let you know if there's outages with Grants.gov. So it's just good to, once you start the federal grant applying process, to make sure that you are always alert and aware of what's going on. So even though it says optional, we can't force you to do it. It's totally up to you. I would strongly recommend it, and all of my grantees that I've talked to that have signed up for the notifications love being notified. They feel that they are very well versed and well informed. So I want you all to have the same opportunity as well. So just something to think about. So kind of think of application and the submission information kind of in this little like chart or diagram. You're going to have an abstract, a budget, a timeline, kind of like a logic model, a program narrative, and, you know, in some cases, letters of support. Kind of are like keys to pretty much almost any grant application. Of course, there's always minute differences depending on the type of funding that's available and restrictions that we may have to put on it. But back to what an application should include. The following elements must be included in the application submission for the application to meet basic minimum requirements. At OJP or DOJ, we call that BMR. Some of you may have heard that term, and again, that just stands for basic minimum requirements. And those are the basic kind of threshold level things that for any solicitation to be able to move forward. And if one of those things are missing, you fail what we call BMR and you don't move forward for funding consideration, and you'd receive a rejection letter letting you know you were eliminated and exactly what the reason was for being eliminated. But I know you guys are all rock stars and no one's going to forget anything, so we don't even have to discuss that piece any further. So to get back to the three critical pieces, an abstract, a narrative, and by narrative we mean the project or program narrative. Sometimes we use those words interchangeably, but it's the same thing. And the budget narrative or budget detail workbook, however you want to call it from the old days, that will be web-based. But these things are critical and cannot be missing from your application. So I'll spend a little bit of time kind of just briefly dissecting each of these just to give you an idea. So for the abstract, a proposal abstract no more than 400 words, summarizing the proposed project, including primary activities, products and deliverables, the service area, and who will benefit from the proposed project. All of this will be completed in Just Grants. So you'll be doing this. If you want to take time and type all this stuff outside of Just Grants, so when you get into Just Grants, it's just a simple cut and paste for you. You're welcome to do that. I've heard applicants say that it saves them time. But one other thing I want to say about the abstract, as someone who's been working in grants management and development and program development for over 10 years now, I truly appreciate when an applicant turns in a project abstract, and not just turn one in, but a really good one that is thought out and worked out. And I know that colleagues that I talk to who do the same work as we really appreciate that. It gives us a clear picture up front, a good snapshot. A lot of times we have to reach out to our leadership because they have questions, and abstracts have really helped us in a lot of times. And so just make sure that you submit that it's clear, that it's not just something you throw together, that it really paints a good picture of your project narrative and what you want to do. Because remember, this abstract reflects you. So you wouldn't want to turn in something that's kind of piecemeal or not the most polished job. So just think about that. With the program narrative, your program narrative should be submitted as an attachment in Just Grants. The attachment document, and pay attention to these requirements, should be double-spaced using a standard 12-point font for Times Roman, and have no less than 1-inch margins and should not exceed 30 pages. Pages should be numbered and submitted as an attachment. The following sections must be included in your proposal narrative. And I'm going to do a recap, so don't worry, and you'll get a copy of this. But a description of the issue, project design and implementation to include a realistic timeline, capabilities and competencies, and a plan for collecting data required for the solicitation's performance measures. So let me just go back and give a quick recap of that. So if you take nothing else away from this, remember that the program narrative is one of the critical documents, so you have to do one. And you need to make sure that you follow the guidelines here. 12-point font, size 12 times Roman, no less than 1-inch margins, not to exceed 30 pages, and make sure that it's double spaced. Now, I always typically get the question, well, what if I don't write 30 pages? You will not be penalized or looked down upon if you don't do 30 pages. I know there's wonderful writers out here, and some people can tell their story and what they need to convey in less than 30 pages and do a fantastic job. Some folks need the entire 30 pages. We are not holding, no one's gonna hold, 30 pages against you if you do all 30 or if you do a little less. Like, don't be concerned with that. Just make sure that you don't go over, but make sure, you're just telling your story in up to 30 pages. And if it's a little less, don't panic. Just don't add stuff for the sake of adding fluff to get to 30 pages. Like, we'd rather you just do a good narrative, and if it's 25, then so be it. But don't stress out over that at all. What else do I want to say about that? So continuing with the program narrative, goals, objectives, and performance measures, you will submit for this program goals, objectives, deliverables, and a timeline in Just Grants. Before, a lot of this stuff was just attachment-based, and you didn't really do most of the work within in the system that we had, but in this, you're doing a lot of the work in Just Grants. And if ever you have any questions, if you look at the solicitation, you will see that we often reference the OJP Grant Application Resource Guide. And let me just spend a second telling you why we do that. Back in the day, our solicitations used to be extremely long. We heard applicants in the field's cries for solicitations that are, 50, 60, 70, 80 pages long can be very intimidating. So we streamlined, we cut down as much as possible, and we kind of provided links to stuff that was relevant and provided you more detail so that we spend most of the time getting directly to the meat and potatoes in the 13 pages of the solicitation that we have to work with. So whenever you see that, you have a question about something, refer to that link that's there. We put that there for a reason. We've spent a lot of time perfecting the OJP Grant Application Resource Guide. It is a wonderful tool. I'm an employee, and I often refer to it for things if I am trying to answer questions for applicants and things of that nature. So it is definitely something good to use. One second. So I want to spend a little time next talking about capabilities and competencies. This section should describe the experience and capability of the applicant organization and any contractors or subcontractors that the applicant will use. So you got to be proactive in thinking like, oh, if we get this money, we're going to subcontract out or get some, we're going to need to know their experiences and if they're capable of working. All of those things kind of help support your application. Applicants should highlight their experience, capability, capacity to manage subawards, including details of their system of physical accountability. So how you maintain financial records, how you maintain programmatic records, all of those things are of interest to us while we determine, if you'll be suitable or, to manage an award of this magnitude and funding of this magnitude. Applicants should also describe the roles and responsibilities of project staff and explain the program's organizational structure and operations. Let me just give you a quick heads up on the way to think about that. Mostly what I've seen, people are submitting job descriptions and staff resumes. Those things more than cover you, and most people put together a nice org chart using, either Prezi or Microsoft PowerPoint or some other kind of fancy software that will help you do that. And so there you go. It's not anything to stress over, but you know that information is of importance to us. And applicants should also include your organizational chart, as I mentioned before, showing how the organization operates, who's in charge, immediately next in charge, and how things flow as your organization. That is extremely important to us. So, plan for collecting data, collecting the data required for performance measures. You'll be expected to describe the process for measuring performance measure, identify who will collect the data, who is responsible for performance measures, and how the information will be used to guide and evaluate the impact of the project. Describe the processes that will be used to accurately report data. And please pay attention to this note right here. While you're doing your application, you're not required to submit performance data with your application, but we're more so letting you know this from the standpoint of if you get awarded, what you'll be expected to report on. So we want to make sure that you're well informed when you're applying and submitting an application so that you know what you're getting yourself into. And I will say too, at the time that you're doing this application, if you don't exactly know the person's name, but you know the position, it's okay to say we're going to have this position collect our performance measures and the person's name will be to be determined, TB. That's totally fine. You don't have to, if you know the person and exactly who they are and their position, that's great. But we recognize that some people may not have that, and that's fine. And that's not going to be a strike against you or anything. But we at least would like to know like a position and, you know, roughly, you know, who's going to be in charge of what. Before I touch on the budget section, well, no, I'll go ahead and talk about this now. Budget worksheet and budget narrative. You will complete this in Just Grants. Please, please, please remember, we see this all the time. A lot of grantees will ask for indirect costs as a part of what they're submitting, but they will do a couple of things. They won't submit a current IDC rate, or they'll submit one and it's outdated. So let me tell you what will happen in that case. What will happen is if we decide, like say you make it through peer review and all that good stuff and you get awarded, you will not have access to the indirect cost portion of your award. That part of your award will be on hold, or what we call in DOJ frozen, until we get an up-to-date rate. So just keep that in mind. You know, that's how that will work. Someone asked me if there's a cap. I don't know specifically. I don't think that there is. Well, I'm sure there is for this particular program, but no one's ever asked me that. So I will get back to you on that. I promise I will get an answer. If you use the email address that was at the beginning of the screen and submit that question, I will make sure to get you an answer to it. I can guarantee you that. Applicants will submit their indirect cost rate agreements by uploading the agreement as an attachment in Just Grants. So that's how you do that. You'll also be expected to do the financial management questionnaire, including applicant disclosure of high risk status. It's very important that you make sure that you take care of those things. You will download the questionnaire in Just Grants and submit it by uploading the complete questionnaire as an attachment in Just Grants. So just remember that key piece. These are very key items and important things that you can't forget to do. Before I talk about the priority areas, there was one section that I mentioned briefly that I want to go back to because I didn't spend a lot of time on it, and that's the timeline. Although a lot of times the timeline is a small percentage of scoring, I don't want you guys to underestimate the importance of it. We really look at timelines. They really paint a clear picture for us about how well you've thought out the project. If your timelines are realistic. So make sure they're realistic, make sure they have a lot of detailed information on them. I, for one, favor timelines that are saying exactly who's doing what, when and where and why, and who's responsible for what, and target dates and when those dates are accomplished and all of those good things. We give guidance in the solicitation and in our OJP application guide on what a great timeline looks like. For those of you who are computer wizards as well, I'm sure you can spend time on Googling one. I've seen great ones on there as well. So however you choose to go about creating a good timeline, I ask you not to think of it as being important because it's a small percentage. It's actually very important, and it paints a picture to us as DOJ staff, and it paints a picture to peer reviewers of your project and if it's realistic. So definitely take that part very seriously. OJP Priority Areas. The department is committed to advancing the work that promotes civil rights, increased access to justice, supports crime victims, protects the public from crime and involving threats, and builds trust between law enforcement and the community. For this fiscal year, OJP will give priority consideration and award decisions to applicants that demonstrate ways in which their projects will advance one or more of these areas. So what that simply means is, as you're putting together your FY 2021 JJSRI applications, refer back to this. I mean, they're also in the solicitation. Refer back to our priority areas. You know, write them on a Post-it, have them somewhere on a dry erase board, anywhere, so that as you're working on your application and fine-tuning it and all that good stuff, that you are checking to see if you're hitting any of those areas. And if you are, you know, you can possibly be considered for priority consideration. So think about that. In addition to the items that I mentioned above, OJP will also give priority consideration, if it applies, to applicants that demonstrate that individuals who are intended to benefit from the requested grant reside in high poverty areas or persistent poverty counties. So that's something to think about as well. The selection process. So again, as I mentioned before, we have the basic minimum requirements process, which there are certain things that must fall in line with that. But applications that meet the basic minimum requirement are the ones that will move forward to pass peer review. So again, those are the applications that have the abstract, the purpose area narrative, or project narrative, and the budget. Those will pass BMR and move forward to peer reviewers to evaluate. Applications will be evaluated on how the proposed project and or program addresses the following criteria. And this is where you want to pay attention to the different percentages and kind of how things are weighted. Description of the issue, and that's 10%. You're simply going to evaluate, the applicant will be evaluating an understanding of the program and the issue to be addressed. So make sure that it's very clear what your issue is, how you're planning to address it. A lot of times, applications are full with a lot of impressive words that may not always be saying a lot. So just make sure that you are painting a very clear picture, that it's an easy read, those kind of things. Two, project design and implementation is worth 45%. Evaluate the adequacy of the proposal, including the goals, objectives, timelines, milestones, and deliverables. Capabilities and competencies, 25%. Evaluate the applicant's administrative and technical capacity to successfully accomplish the goals and objectives. And then 4, plan for collecting data. The data required for the solicitation's performance measurements is 10%. And again, this simply means evaluate the applicant's understanding of the performance measure data reporting requirements and the plan for collecting required data. And then of course, there's the budget, that's 10%, and you'll be evaluated on the completeness of this, cost effectiveness, and allowability, reasonableness of cost, and all that good thing. So when you're doing the budget, if you think you need a computer, evaluate if you need 8 computers that are $20,000 each, or you can get a computer that does the same amount of work or just a good job for less. So we evaluate whether costs are reasonable and make sense, and we evaluate whether it's something you can technically ask for under this money. So just kind of think about that. And the other thing I would say about your budget too, when peer reviewers are reading your purpose area narrative and your budget, and they're evaluating your application, and I think the same would be true for us as federal staff at DOJ, we look for parallels between your project narrative, and your budget. Essentially, like, we should be able to read your project narrative and your budget makes 100% sense to us, and vice versa. So just kind of look at those things together and make sure that your budget supports your project narrative and vice versa. The application review process. So we're going to spend a little time talking about that. And applications submitted under this solicitation, again, like I said before, that meet BMR will be evaluated for technical merit by a peer review panel. And of course, it's in accordance with the peer review policy that OJP has had in place for years. We as federal staff screen the applications to ensure they meet BMR prior to conducting peer review. And although specific requirements may vary, the following are kind of common requirements applicable to all solicitations for funding under OJP programs, including JJSRI. And that's the application must be submitted by an eligible applicant. The application must request funding within the programmatic funding constraints if applicable. The application must be responsive to the scope of the solicitation, and the application must include all the necessary items to meet BMR. And again, those are abstract, project narrative, and budget. Where and how to apply. So as I mentioned before, for those of you who've been applying to DOJ for a while, and if this will be the first solicitation that you're applying to in 21, you're going to notice things just a tad bit different. So as again, there's this whole new two-step process. Step one, as I briefly talked about before, applicants will submit the SF424 and the SFLLL in Grants.gov at the following URL. So you can follow that. You will then obtain a DUNS number and SAM's registration or renewal. So those are kind of the first things that you need to do with step one. Step two, applicants will submit the full application, including attachments and just grants. But let me just say a little bit, that seems very simple, but there's a lot of things that need to happen before that. Once you do the piece that you need to do in Grants.gov, again, you need to be monitoring your email to make sure that what you submitted is accepted or it's not rejected and you have to change things. So just, again, make sure you're checking your pop-up blockers, your spam filters, all that good thing to make sure that you're not missing anything. To be considered timely, the full application must be submitted in Just Grants by the deadline, which we already discussed, is July 19th by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I would strongly, again, I mentioned that we have this great guide called the OJP Grant Application Resource Guide. There's a how to apply section in there. Very thorough, very detailed, very good information. I would kind of have that by your side as you're going through this process. For this solicitation and any other OJP solicitation you might apply for. It is truly a useful tool. Technical assistance with Grants.gov. So while technology is very great and allows us to do a lot of great things fast, technology can also have problems, and we recognize that that can happen to applicants at any part or any time in the application process. So when you go to do your Grants.gov piece, if you are having challenges or problems, there's technical assistance right here. All the good information you need, their days and hours of the week. This is who you would contact if you're having any type of issues with Grants.gov. Grants.gov, sorry. Resources. We have lots of great resources to kind of help our grantees. We want to see you, our applicants, we want to see you do a good job. We'd like to get tons of competitive applications and make it very hard for us to decide who's going to get awarded sometimes. So I would encourage you to look at these resources, as they could probably really help you as you sit down to do your application. Of course, we encourage you and like the fact that you stay in touch and keep up to date on what's going on with JJ. These are all our various social media platforms and ways that you can read about all the wonderful work that we are doing. And so I encourage you to take a look at that page whenever you get a chance. Again, here's a slide from earlier. That's me, that's my name. Here's the response center information here. But I'm also one of those grant program managers. I am not bothered at all if anyone wants to reach out to me directly. So I always, and this is not, I still encourage you to use the response center's information, but if you want to copy me or if you want to email me directly and copy the response center, if you want to do both, it's fine so that we have a record of it. But I don't want you to think that, you can't reach out to me. Now, please feel free anytime, and I will do my best to answer your question directly. If I don't know the answer right away, I will simply respond, I'm in receipt of your email, allow me a day or two to get back in touch with you. But I will certainly make sure that your questions get answered.
Right, great.
Hold on, William. I kind of wanted to go through this. So here's the Just Grants information here for you. Like when you start to do your application, you're going to be familiar with that. Different ways to see additional webinars for other topic areas that OJP is doing. And then kind of like a disclaimer that we kind of have. I don't know how important that is, but just so you're aware. Sometimes things change after we do a webinar, and just so you know, this is all the accurate information we have at this point in time, and we'll be sure to let you know if anything were to change at all, you would be notified.
All right, great. Thank you, James. And really quickly, for our audience, I'm going to put the Q&A slide up back just in case, James, if anyone has any, questions about response center, things of that nature, we have that up. But it looks like our first question that came in is regarding along the lines of eligibility. Would an applicant need to address both priority areas, or is it either or?
So when they say, are they talking about the OJP priority areas? Because there was more than just two, because they said both. So I want to make sure that they're intending to say the word priority areas. Are they in fact talking about priority areas, or is it something else that they're talking about?
Yes, they mentioned priority areas specifically.
Okay. So if you think that what you're proposing addresses one or more, then you simply let us know how it's addressing the one or the more than one, and we'll take a look at that. So yes, definitely, put the priority areas that you feel like your application is addressing.
Okay, great. And I believe you have already addressed part of this, but in case you want to expound a little bit more on it, it says, can you expound on how for-profit organizations or other than small businesses are defined? Is there a size threshold that should not be considered? Sorry, let me read this again. Is there a size threshold to not consider small? And it's small in quotations here.
I'm going to be quite honest with whoever answered that question. That is one of the ones I'm going to have to check with some people on to get a clear definition, but I promise to get you an answer to that. You can either email that question to the response center and I'll get it for follow-up, or you can email it to me directly. And my email address is james.a.smith@usdoj.gov. Again, that's james.a.smith@usdoj.gov. I would just ask that you copy the response center if you choose to email me directly, and vice versa, just so I am aware. But I will definitely make sure that you get a clear answer for that question.
Let's see, can an applicant apply for Category 2 but also be a partner on an application within their state on Category 1?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, so someone is asking me, can the applicant apply to be the TA provider, but also be a partner with an application that is submitted for Category 1 for a grant? Is that how I'm understanding that correctly?
Yeah, and that's what I am interpreting that they're saying. And if they want to, if they have anything they want to clarify, they can feel free to type in the chat as well.
Yeah, that's another one I'm going to have to get directly at. I mean, we haven't had that pop up. So I'll just need to get clarity from some folks in my office regarding that. But again, just get that question to me in email, and I will make sure you get an answer. I could guess, but I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I am giving you exactly what the solid answer is for that.
All right. Again, James, I believe you already did a little clarification on this, but I'll ask here. They said to also discuss the continuation funding intent for Category 2, and they referenced that it was on page 7 of the RFP.
On page 7, okay. Give me 1 second. I have my solicitation up, so I'm just gonna go to page 7. Let me see.
And that's page 7.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. Just give me 1 quick second to look at exactly what they're talking about. So all this simply means is, and I'm just going to make this example up. Let's just say you have ABC organization, and I'm totally making this up. This is not a real organization. But let's just say you have ABC organization, and they are awarded to be a TA provider under Category 2. What may happen when they're coming close to their award being up and the 36 months is up? We may at some point say, well, we're going to put the opportunity out there for the project to be funded again through continuation funding. And the parameters around that would be, we would only ever offer up to 2. So it's kind of think about this like this. The ABC organization would have their initial set of funding that got them through 36 months. And then there's a possibility that they could be funded again through continuation funding 2 more times. But it would never be for more than 12 months on each of the supplements, is essentially what it's saying.
All right, thank you. This next question is in regards to the deadlines and timelines. What is the timing of when a Category 2 grantee would be notified and awarded supplemental funding?
Ask that question one more time for me.
Yeah, sure, no problem. What is the timing of when a Category 2 grantee would be notified and awarded supplemental funding?
Okay, so let's just, again, I'm going to go with this organization that I've made up, ABC organization. Well, the thing to understand is this is the first year for this solicitation. So if ABC organization gets awarded under Category 2, this is going to be the first time that someone is awarded for that. So there can't be an opportunity for continuation funding or supplemental funding before this, because this is the first time that this solicitation has hit the streets. This is brand new for us. So to answer that question, ABC obviously would have to be awarded an award this year. They get that money, they get through their 36 months, and somewhere around the last year, what's more likely going to happen is there's going to be some information sent out about the possible opportunity to continue the work that they're doing through supplemental or continuation funding. But that would not happen. Like, you wouldn't hear about that until towards the end of your grant, probably like the last year or the last you know, 6 months or so, something to that nature. It wouldn't be anything that you would hear right away. And it's no guarantee that we have to do it. So I want to be very clear about that as well.
All right, thank you. The next part here, technicals, this is around a technical question here. Can you also change your, and they put this in quotes here, project title, item, line 15 in the SF424 document once it has been transferred into Just Grants?
Oh, meaning like, are they asking, do they want to change the name of their project? Like if they gave it one name on the SF424, but later on as they're working on their application, they realize they want to change the name. Is that the question being asked?
Yeah, it sounds like if they wanted to make that general modification there, and they, again, put in quotes, project title, so it may be for them. Can you also change
I'm
your
pretty
project title?
sure I had this question come up before. I'm going to say that I think the answer is yes, but I'm also going to say I can confirm it. So let me double check on that, but I think that it can be.
Okay.
But just make sure that I get that question and I'll follow up with it.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. All right. Oh, okay. So it looks like someone sent a question, but it went directly to me. Should the Category 2 provider expect to work only with states, or will the work trickle down to the local and community levels as well?
Just states, as far as I'm aware.
All right. And let's see. What is this saying here? Is the Category 2 grantee responsible for site selection for the states receiving TA?
Meaning, like, are they asking if the TA provider determines which states they want to help or provide TA to?
That's a good question. I'm going to ask the individual who typed that question.
Was it Tessa that asked that question?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I think I just heard her say yes. So Tessa, to answer your question, so I'll answer it kind of like two ways, right? So obviously DOJ and OJP will be the ones to decide who gets these 7 awards under Category 1. And so by the mere nature of that, whoever's awarded the TA provider under Category 2 will have to work with the people that get the 7 awards under Category 1. And any other states that may request our assistance and can demonstrate that they're doing the work we need them to work, doing the work that we need them to do in order to receive the benefit of the TA provider. That one's a little tricky because it would depend on who's making the request and who's writing into us. But the TA provider, more than likely, you would know who you need to be working with from us. Like, we would more than likely be letting you know who you need to work with.
Okay. Let's see, if I ask for X amount of dollars in Grants.gov, but the amount changes during the grant writing process, is it possible to change the amount later in Just Grants?
You should be able to change it in Just Grants. And even if you can't, do not panic. It is not anything that is gonna chew you up. Just make sure that what you really want is listed in your budget, but I'm almost certain you can change it. And a lot of times, as I mentioned before, a lot of applicants, for the sake of getting Part 1 done, the Grants.gov, a lot of times they put an estimate. You could literally put $1 if you wanted to.
Okay. And really quickly to the audience, just a reminder, when you're sending your questions, please be sure you're sending to all panelists or everyone so that we can make sure that we're capturing your questions that are coming in. I'm seeing here that some people may have messaged me directly, but I was helping out with some technical issues for others. Okay, let's see. Can the grant money be used to build a structure for a risk juvenile center, like a gym?
No, it can't be used for any type of construction.
You did this before, James, but if you want to expound on it, someone was asking about providing examples of what would be applicable for funding under Category 1, but I believe you already did that if you didn't want to repeat yourself again.
And they're asking what type of things would be. I just want to make sure I understand the question. Are they asking what kind of things would be funded under Category 1?
Correct.
I don't mind reading that kind of list again, or kind of saying what the things are to think about as it relates to Category 1. No, not at all. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I found a good place, because we have it a couple different places, but there's one place that I like better than the other. So 1 second.
Yeah. And just to our audience, while James is looking that up, again, just a reminder to folks, when you're sending your question, please be sure to send your questions into everyone or all panelists, just to ensure that we are able to get your question.
So I'll just read this again, and I would ask whoever answered the question to pay attention to page 5 of the solicitation, where it lists the subtopic or subtitle specific information. That's a good place to start, as well as right above statutory authority, when it kind of gives the more general. But either one of those will guide you. I won't read it all, but I'll just tell you exactly where you can go. Go to page 5, and you'll see it right there.
Okay. Let's see. Someone asked if housing authorities are eligible to apply.
I don't think so, but I can confirm. I've never had anyone ask that, and I'm not sure if that was in mind, but I can certainly ask. So if someone just make sure I get the question, I'll follow up with that too. I'm almost certain it's a no, but I'll ask.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there was another question here that was sent in a private message. Is it $3 million over 3 years or $3 million over 5 years?
It's 3 million. Say that again now.
Yeah, that, and yeah, I'll ask the person to, if they need to retype that. But is it 3 million over 3 years or 3 million over 5 years? And they just put a question mark after that.
Well, it's not 3 million. They're getting $1 million for the life of the grant. The life of the grant will be awarded for 36 months or 3 years. So you have $1 million for those 3 years. It's not $1 million per year.
Okay. And then it looks like someone asked, will they receive an invitation to apply for continuation funding? I think you already talked about continuation funding, James. So if you, yeah, let's see. And
I will just touch on it again. I will just touch on it again, because I know it's a big question under Category 2. But as I said before, this is the first year that this solicitation is coming out. So, like, consideration funding or continuation or supplemental funding for this isn't anything that would even be looked at or discussed until around a year or the last year in which of the award for the first person awarded this TA grant. it's not anything that would be thought of this year or even next year for that matter. So it's not something to worry about at this point. And keep in mind, we don't have to offer it either. It's not anything that's guaranteed. It's something we can do, but it's not guaranteed.
Okay. Let's see. The next question here, someone asked, do they need a privacy certificate and IRB review for the proposal?
If it didn't ask for it in the solicitation, then no.
Okay. Let's see. We have someone else asked, please clarify again for Category 2 applicants, they should submit an application for only 12 months of TTA and a budget of, it looks like they meant to say 1 million for 12 months. Instead, yeah, 1 million for 12 months.
So, okay, so how they need to think about this is whoever is awarded in the Category 2 is gonna have an award for 3 years, 36 months or 3 years. So they have $1 million for those 3 years. It's not $1 million per year. So you're gonna make that $1 million stretch over 3 years. So your budget needs to account for 36 months or 3 years. You wouldn't do one budget for $1 million for 1 year because the life of your award is for 3 years. So your budget needs to reflect that.
Okay. Someone asked a broad question of what can the grant money be used for? Just question mark there. I know you provided some detail, but did you want to address that at all?
I would refer them to page 5, and if there's something that they're thinking of that they might want to use the money for and they're unsure, feel free to email the response center or me directly, and we can address those specific items.
Okay. The next question is a little long. Are people who score applications trained in the same way, the same time? And it looks like they're asking because of an experience they've had with not addressing all priority areas, even though I guess they were instructed to address one. Did you want to speak on that at all, James?
Can you ask the question one more time for me, please? I think I understand it, but I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were asking, it sounds like about the individuals who scored the grant applications. They wanted more detail about that, but then they were asking because they, I guess, had an experience that they didn't address all priority areas, even though they were instructed to only address one area.
I'll say this. Anytime you have someone read an application, people interpret things very differently. I apologize for what may have happened with another grant solicitation and another application. It doesn't mean those things will happen here. Sometimes things happen that are out of our control that we don't catch until later, but that is not the case here. OJP takes our peer reviewers very seriously. We look for the best. We look for the highly qualified. They go through training. They're given clear instructions on how we like things evaluated, what to look at. We have consensus calls so they can ask us detailed questions. So they're definitely trained. They definitely get adequate time to review and read all the applications, and they always have the opportunity to reach out to DOJ staff if there's questions that need to be answered.
Thank you.
So I say that, I say that to say, hey, William, I say that to say that I understand sometimes there's a little nervousness when your application is being evaluated and it's not being evaluated by necessarily DOJ staff, but we solicit folks who are subject matter experts in the various areas for various solicitations. And then also we as DOJ staff, even after the peer reviewers review things, we also look at things to decide maybe if something is missed or what have you. So while I understand the concern, I would urge the individual not to worry. We definitely make sure that our peer reviewers are well-trained, well-instructed, and we are there at every step of the process.
All right. And it looks like this may be one of our last questions here. Is there a clause that we cannot include any other grants?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask the attendee if they want to please maybe rephrase the question, because it sounded like they're saying, is there a clause that they can't include any other grants? Some grants require you cannot apply for other grants. And so it sounds like if they are able to apply for other grants.
I mean, applying to this certainly shouldn't stop you from applying to other grants. I know that oftentimes DOJ asks applicants to disclose any pending applications, and we do that to make sure that funding efforts aren't duplicated. For example, if an applicant was asking, if ABC Tribe was asking to do work, asking to address a problem and do work under something at BJA, and then they're asking and literally submitting the same exact application to do the same work under JJ, no, that would probably be red flag and caught and not allowed. But in most cases, we rarely run into that.
Okay. Let's see, let's see. If selected to be the TA provider, can the TA provider do some TA in the group for all states awarded and some one-on-one TA? And if you need me to repeat that, let me know.
No, it's fine. Certainly, I mean, we're open to allowing the TA provider to be as flexible and to use their expertise and working with grantees to determine the best way to assist them. But I will say that the TA provider needs to be open to ways that the grantee may prefer. The grantee may not want to be in a group setting. They may prefer one-on-one only, and the TA provider needs to be accommodating to that. So I guess what I'm saying is no one should be forced to do group TA. I think it can be great in certain circumstances, and then I think there's certain circumstances where individual TA is needed. So the TA provider is expected to be flexible and do whatever is needed legally, of course, to meet the grantee's needs.
Okay. And just to let our audience know, we're going up to about 3:30, so it looks like these last questions will probably be the last ones we'll be able to get to for the afternoon. And just as a reminder to the audience, the response center information is up on the slide here in case we were unable to get to your question or if you have follow-up questions as well. Okay, James, so what would be the process for non-grantee states to request TA? And then there's a second part to that question that says, does OJJDP expect a lot of non-grantee states to be applying for TA? Question mark.
Okay, so I'll answer the latter question first. That's hard to say. We don't know. We honestly don't know. It's one of those things, you address it when it comes in. I wish I could give a clearer answer, but we just don't know. As far as the first question, that process hasn't necessarily fully been identified yet. It's just we know that they would need to just demonstrate that they are doing the work that we need in order to be considered or to get help from the TA provider that it's awarded under Category 2. More of that will be fleshed out probably once we decide who we award, and we're working with them to come up with what that process looks like. But it's a little early on for that right now.
Okay, thank you. And again, to our audience, any questions that we didn't get to, we have the response center information up here. James, I believe that's it. I don't see any other questions that have come in from the audience, and it looks like we have about, oh, okay, here's a last one that may have come in here. If there were a lot of TA requests, would OJJDP consider increasing the TA award to meet the need?
Anything's possible. I can't give a definitive answer on that. That's one of those things that we'd have to cross when we get there. I'm sure OJP and JJ would be willing to do something if the requests were an outrageous amount, absolutely, but I can't definitively answer that. It's kind of like we just have to cross that bridge when we got there. But I will say we're never opposed to helping grantees be successful, whatever that means. So yeah, I'm sure we'd be more than willing to be helpful. Exactly what that looks like, that bridge would need to be crossed when we got there.
And looks like there are no additional questions that are coming in. James, did you have any last remarks before we wrap up?
Absolutely. I encourage each of the applicants on this call today to do a couple of things. I'm going to give you some homework assignments. I'm a teacher part-time, so I use the word homework assignments a lot. But no, seriously, put these deadline dates on your Google or your Outlook calendars. Even if you're just thinking about applying, just have those dates. I say do the Grants.gov piece anyway. Even if you end up not applying, at least you know you have that major part done. And I say that because you will not be able to submit an application if that Grants.gov part is not done. So just make sure you have those deadlines there and that you try to complete those tasks way before the deadlines. Do not wait until the day of or a few days before to start your grant application and start working on it and start submitting. So what often happens is grantees make mistakes. And unfortunately, you know, certain mistakes, although we feel bad, we can do nothing about. I'll give you an example. Last year on a solicitation I was working on, we had an applicant wait to the last minute and rush, and they submitted their documents and track changes with all these we had to accept it that way. We're not allowed to go in and alter anything, and the deadline had passed. And that mistake would not have been made if the applicant had took the time and not rushed and tried to do things on the last day. Allow yourself a good week to 2 week window to get this done. And I say that because how you want to approach your grant application, you want to get it done 2 weeks in advance at a minimum. Allow yourself to sit down with your team, whoever worked on the application with you. You guys act like your peer reviewers and look at the requirements and see how your application measures up. That way you still have time to address things that may be weak or things you may want to make stronger or add things that you may have overlooked. But when you rush, you don't have those opportunities. When you rush, you tend to make mistakes. When you wait till the last deadline to submit for registrations, you risk running out of time. So I just encourage you to be very proactive with this. No question is a stupid question. So please, if you think of questions once this webinar is over in the coming weeks, like I said, don't be afraid to email the response center or me. But if you email me, I ask to copy the response center. And if you email the response center, I still ask that you copy me just because I just like to know what's going on with my program and what's being asked. But don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what we're here for. You are never bothering us at all. And so I'd rather you ask and get a full understanding of something than to take a guess or just not feel like you don't want to bother us. You're never bothering us. But print out the solicitation, do whatever you need to do, get dates on your calendars, get deadlines on your calendars, and kind of break this up like a project. Tackle the easy things first and then get to the more difficult, or maybe do 2 difficult things first and then work in an easy requirement. However you want to do it, just if you're thinking about applying or you already know you're going to apply, just go ahead and start to get things done, is what I would encourage you to do. And of course, if you run into any issues with JustGrant, please just, it's a new system. We know it's not perfect. We're working through all the kinks, but just, make sure you copy the help desk. If you feel like you've reached out to them numerous times and you're just not getting an answer, feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll see what I can do. But, we're all here for you. We're super excited that you attended this webinar today, and I really, really hope that you apply for our first ever JJSRI program. Looking forward to seeing your applications, reading your applications, and hopefully funding a lot, or whoever we can fund, certainly.
Great. Thank you, James. And to our audience members, again, thank you all for joining today. On your screen, we did a file share, which will give you access to the PDF of today's presentation. If you're unable to access it there, please note that we do have the link in the chat window here where you are able to access the PDF through a Google Drive link. Simply click on that or copy and paste it into your browser as well. And just as a reminder to folks, we do have a poll question that I've put up for people as you all exit today's room, just to let you all know that, or get information about what you plan on using this information for. Please note that this is multiple select, so you can select multiple options here. As James mentioned, here's the information for JustGrants, and then also please be sure to visit OJJDP's multimedia page so you can get access to other webinars around juvenile justice and child victimization prevention related topics. And for any transcript or supporting materials, you can reach out to the OJJDP TTA Help Desk at the email address located on this slide. Disclaimer here, and again, thank you all for attending today's solicitation webinar. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, James. Take care.
No problem. Thank you.